Fairy lights twinkled above, casting a cozy glow on the backyard. Laughter and chatter filled the air as I weaved through the crowd. I balanced a plate piled high with canapés, almost spilling them. It was Sarah's birthday party, and all our college friends were there, most of them still single and enjoying their freedom. But me? I was the odd one out, proudly wearing a hefty ring on my left hand. "Hey, stranger," a voice called out behind me. I turned to see Sarah, her blonde curls bouncing as she hugged me tight. "Where have you been hiding?" "Just dodging social butterflies," I laughed, motioning to my overflowing plate. "Happy birthday, by the way. You look stunning." "Thanks," she said, her eyes sparkling. "So where's Mr. Perfect?" "Ah, Michael." Even his name sounded perfect. He was why I left single life behind so quickly. We met just a few months ago at a friend's party. It felt like a scene from a cheesy romance novel. We locked eyes across the room, the music faded, and suddenly it was just the two of us. "Hey," he said, a confident smile playing on his lips. "I don't think we've met. I'm Michael." "I'm Paloma," I replied, feeling a flutter in my stomach. "Nice to meet you." That night we talked for hours about everything and nothing. He was unlike any guy I'd ever met. At 27, he already had a clear vision for his future. A career, a family, the whole package. It was refreshing, a stark contrast to the commitment-phobic Peter Pan surrounding me. "I want kids," he declared at one point, his gaze intense. "A whole bunch of them. And I wouldn't mind changing a single diaper." My heart skipped a beat. Kids were a non-negotiable for me, too. Growing up as an only child, I'd always dreamed of a house filled with laughter and the chaos of little ones. "Me too," I whispered, a genuine smile spreading across my face. And that was it. We were on the same page, a rare find in the murky waters of dating. Our relationship blossomed quickly. Dates turned into weekend getaways, which turned into movie nights curled up on his couch. Michael introduced me to his family, a close-knit bunch who welcomed me with open arms. His mom, Martha, was particularly warm. "Family is everything, Paloma," she'd say, her eyes twinkling. "A woman's place is with her children, nurturing them, helping them grow." I couldn't help but agree. A year later, Michael got down on one knee, a simple diamond ring glinting under the park lights. Tears welled up in my eyes as I whispered yes. Our wedding was small but beautiful, surrounded by loved ones. After the honeymoon, reality set in. Michael, ever practical, suggested I stay home and focus on creating a loving environment for the future little ones we desperately wanted. "Think of it as an investment," he'd say, squeezing my hand. "I'll be the breadwinner. You focus on becoming the best Dan mom ever." 6 months flew by at a whirlwind of doctor's appointments, cravings for pickles and ice cream at 3 a.m, and endless baby name debates. Michael was ecstatic. He practically announced our pregnancy to everyone we met. Booming. Pals knocked up. "We're going to have a little hair." The way he phrased it always rubbed me a little wrong, this emphasis on an hair. But I brushed it off, focusing on the miracle growing inside me. Finally, the big day arrived. Hours of pushing, a symphony of screams, mine and the baby's, I might add, and then silence. A tiny hand, wrinkled and perfect, grasped my finger. Relief washed over me so intense it almost hurt. "It's a girl," the doctor announced, her voice filled with warmth. A beat of silence followed. Then Michael lumbered over, his face a mask of disappointment. I couldn't believe it. Here I was exhausted and exhilarated, cradling our beautiful daughter. All Michael could muster was a look like he'd lost his favorite team's championship game. "A girl." "H," he finally mumbled, his voice devoid of any excitement. "Well, there's always next time for a boy, right?" My heart sank. "Next time," he shrugged, his gaze flickering away from our daughter nestled in my arms. "Yeah, you know we got to have an hair cut to carry on the family name." I forced a smile. "We have an hair," I said gently, nudging him towards the baby. "Look at her, Michael. She's perfect." He gave a half-hearted nod, but his eyes remained distant. Thankfully, my in-laws were a different story. Martha, the moment she laid eyes on her granddaughter, Emily, practically went into grandma overdrive. She fussed over her, cooed at her, and showered her with tiny clothes and stuffed animals. "A little princess," she declared, "just what this family needs." Michael's initial coldness towards Emily persisted. He'd hold her awkwardly, his gaze often straying to some unseen point in the distance. He'd make comments like, "Such a delicate flower, got to handle her with kid gloves," or "Shame she can't be a little rough and tumble like a boy." Each remark chipped away at my joy. Was it wrong of me to want my husband to love our daughter regardless of her gender? But a year later, when the doctors confirmed I wouldn't be able to have any more children due to health complications, the truth became undeniable. Michael's disappointment morphed into something darker, a constant undercurrent of resentment that permeated our lives. 8 years melted away like ice cream on a hot summer day. Emily, my little miracle, blossomed into a vibrant, independent child. At 8 years old, she possessed a mind sharper than a chef's knife, gadgets for her toys. French flowed from her lips like a babbling brook, and her culinary skills could put most adults to shame. Just last week, she whipped up a 3-course French feast for Martha and George, her grandparents. They sat there, eyes wide and taste buds tingling, as Emily proudly presented each dish. "Emily, this is incredible," Martha exclaimed, dabbing her lips with a napkin. "You're a natural." George, a man of few words, simply granted his approval, but the twinkle in his eye spoke volumes. That same week she brought home another trophy, this one for the most delicious homemade dish at a junior high school competition. Michael remained unfazed. He muttered a half-hearted congratulations and disappeared into the den, the usual refuge he sought whenever Emily's achievements threatened to steal the spotlight. One evening, as Emily built an elaborate Lego castle on the living room floor, tears welled up in her big brown eyes. "Mommy," she sniffled, her lower lip trembling, "why doesn't Daddy ever seem happy about my stuff?" My heart ached. This wasn't new. Michael's indifference towards Emily had been a thorn in my side for years. I always brushed it off, telling myself he just wasn't good at expressing affection. But seeing the confusion cloud Emily's bright eyes, a fierce protectiveness surged through me. "Hey, sweetie." I knelt beside her, pulling her into a hug. "Don't you worry about that. Your dad loves you very much. He just doesn't know how to show it." That night, after Emily drifted off to sleep, I confronted Michael. He was sprawled on the couch, flipping through sports channels, a beer balanced precariously on the coffee table. "Michael," I said, my voice tight with frustration, "we need to talk about Emily. She came to me today crying. She feels like you don't love her because you never seem happy about anything she does." He looked at me, his expression a mixture of annoyance and defensiveness. "Look," he said, his voice gruff, "I do my best, okay? I pay the bills, put a roof over her head. Isn't that enough? She craves your approval, your support," I said, my voice trembling with anger. Michael sighed, a heavy sound that seemed to fill the room. "Fine," he muttered. "I'll try, but don't expect miracles." The following days, a strained effort of communication settled between Michael and Emily. He'd ask her about school, albeit with a forced politeness that made me cringe, but it was like watching a bear trying to waltz. Months blurred one into another. Michael's attempts at forced father-daughter bonding had dwindled, replaced by a distant politeness. But a new unsettling change had emerged, his late nights. He started trickling in after dark, reeking of cologne that wasn't mine. His excuses were flimsy: work meetings running late, traffic jams on the freeway. Each explanation felt like a slap in the face. One evening, as the clock ticked past midnight and Emily was long asleep, I decided to confront him. He stumbled through the door, a tired but smug smirk plastered on his face. "There you are," I said, my voice tight with suppressed anger. "Where have you been? Emily's been asking about you all night." He shot me a condescending look. "Look, honey," he drawled, the irritation in his voice clear. "I bring home the bacon, all right? You sit here all day. What do you know about the real world?" My jaw clenched. This was the man who'd insisted I become a housewife. Now he had the audacity to throw it back in my face. The following days were a tense dance of silence and simmering resentments. Michael retreated further, spending more and more time away from home. He even started dressing differently, trendier clothes, a cocky swagger that grated on my nerves. Even his hairstyle had changed, a youthful cut that seemed designed to shave years off his face. "Going for a new look, huh?" I remarked one morning, unable to contain my curiosity. He flashed me a toothy grin, the kind he never used on me anymore. "Work thing," he mumbled, avoiding my gaze. The lie hung heavy in the air. One day, Emily practically skipped into the house, a wide grin plastered on her face and a crumpled piece of paper clutched in her hand. "Mommy, guess what?" she chirped, bouncing on the balls of her feet. My heart swelled with pride. My little genius had a knack for collecting achievements. This time, what was it? Another coding competition win? A perfect score on a science test. "What is it, sweetie?" I asked, kneeling before her and taking the paper. "I won the school's Mind Games Championship," she declared, her voice brimming with excitement. "They said I'm the smartest kid in my grade." I whooped with joy, engulfing her in a tight hug. "That's amazing, Emily. I knew you could do it." This victory deserved a celebration, but what? A fancy dinner? A trip to the amusement park? Those options felt lame for a mind as brilliant as Emily's. Then an idea struck me. That afternoon, after Emily finished her coding class, yes, at 8 years old, I surprised her with a sleek, brand new smartphone. Her eyes widened in astonishment as she unwrapped the box. "Mommy, a phone for me," she exclaimed. "For you?" I confirmed, a smile tugging at my lips. "You've worked so hard, and I think this could be a great way for you to explore your interests even more." She took the phone, her fingers tracing the smooth surface with a sense of reverence. Within minutes, she figured out how to navigate it, taking photos, editing them with built-in filters, and even downloading a few educational apps. "Thank you, Mommy. This is the best gift ever," she exclaimed, throwing her arms around me. A pang of guilt twinged at my heart. Michael constantly harped on about me spoiling Emily. He wouldn't approve of this, not one bit. But the joy on Emily's face silenced that voice. "Just promise me one thing, okay?" I said, holding her gaze. "Don't tell Daddy about the phone. He might get mad." Emily, ever the loyal daughter, nodded earnestly. "My lips are sealed, Mommy. This is our little secret." A week later, a glimmer of hope, faint as a firefly in the night, flickered in our strained household. Michael, for the first time since his late-night habits began, initiated a conversation about Emily. Not just a disinterested "how was school," but a genuine attempt to connect. "Hey, Em," he said one evening, tossing a worn baseball cap onto the table. "How'd you like to go on a camping trip with me this weekend? Just us two. We can roast marshmallows, tell scary stories by the campfire." Emily's eyes lit up like Christmas lights. "Really? With just you and me?" "Yeah," Michael confirmed, a hint of awkwardness in his voice. "Figured it's about time we bonded, you and your old man." A knot of apprehension tightened in my stomach. The thought of Emily venturing into the wilderness with Michael, who wouldn't know a compass from a colander, sent shivers down my spine. "But Dad," Emily interjected, a frown creasing her brow. "What about bears and stuff? Aren't there, like, wild animals in the mountains?" Michael chuckled, a sound devoid of humor. "Don't worry, kiddo. I'll protect you from any bears or wolves that come sniffing around." My heart pounded in my chest. This whole camping trip felt like a terrible idea. Yet, seeing the excitement sparkling in Emily's eyes, the words died in my throat. That weekend they packed their backpacks, a nervous flutter in my stomach battling with a sliver of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this trip would be the bridge they needed to build a stronger relationship. Sunday evening rolled around, a leaden gray settling over the sky, mirroring the dread growing in my chest. Michael stumbled through the door alone, his face etched with a desperate weariness. "Paloma," he croaked, his voice hoarse. I need to tell you something. It's Emily. I lost her." The world tilted on its axis. "Lost her?" I echoed, my voice barely a whisper. "What do you mean you lost her?" He looked up, his eyes red-rimmed and pleading. "We were hiking in the mountains, and she wandered off. I called for her, searched everywhere. Fury surged through me, hot and blinding. And you just came home now? Why didn't you call the police?" "I was scared," he mumbled, his voice cracking. "Scared. They'd think. Think what?" I roared, my voice laced with terrifying calm. "Bet you're a neglectful father who lost his own daughter." Tears streamed down his face, but they did little to extinguish the inferno raging within me. "I'm calling the police," I declared, grabbing the phone. "They can start searching right away." A frantic phone call later, sirens wailed in the distance, a beacon of hope in the encroaching darkness. My in-laws arrived, their faces etched with concern, but their words did little to penetrate the fog of terror blanketing my mind. The agonizing wait dragged on. Each tick of the clock felt like eternity. Michael sat huddled on the couch, his phone clutched in his hand, his gaze glued to the screen. My blood pressure soared as I watched him, a detached calmness masking a simmering rage. This wasn't worry, not genuine concern. It was something else entirely. A jolt of electricity shot through me. Emily. Her phone. Emily's phone. I screamed, the realization dawning on me like a slap in the face. She has a phone with GPS. Michael's face drained of color. His phone clattered to the floor, the screen displaying a text conversation filled with cutesy emojis. Ignoring the sickening churn in my stomach, I grabbed my phone and dialed Emily's number. It rang unanswered, each unanswered ring chipping away at the fragile hope I clung to. With trembling hands, I relayed the information to the search team, a newfound urgency lacing their voices. Here's hoping that tiny phone, a symbol of my supposed overindulgence, would be the key to bringing Emily home. An hour stretched into what felt like a lifetime. Then a crackle of static on the walkie-talkie shattered the tense silence. A voice, rough with relief, announced, "We found her. She's safe and sound." Moments later, the front door burst open, revealing a group of rescuers carrying a small, bundled figure. Emily, her face streaked with dirt and exhaustion, but safe, alive. My in-laws engulfed her in a hug, tears streaming down their faces. I joined the embrace, burying my face in her hair. The scent of pine needles and fresh air was a balm to my soul. When we finally pulled back, I looked into Emily's bright brown eyes. "Why didn't you answer your phone, sweetheart?" I asked, my voice thick with emotion. She shrugged, a hint of defiance in her small voice. "I was scared it would die," she explained, "so I just stayed put and waited for them to find me on the GPS thing." 8 years old and already displaying a wisdom that put her father to shame. a shame that simmered into white-hot rage as I glanced at Michael, who stood awkwardly to the side, a ghost at his own daughter's homecoming party. "Well, aren't you going to say something?" I spat, my voice laced with venom. "Welcome home, sweetheart. Glad you're not lost in the wilderness anymore." Michael flinched at my words but remained silent. Emily, sensing the animosity, wriggled out of my embrace and walked towards him. "Daddy," she said, her voice small but clear, "why did you leave me all alone in the mountains?" Michael's lips stretched into a thin, unconvincing smile. "Just a little test, champ," he mumbled, his voice strained. "See how brave you are." Emily, for an 8-year-old, displayed a maturity that belied her age. She tilted her head, her gaze unwavering. "No," she corrected, "you left me on purpose." A choked laugh escaped Michael's lips. "Don't be silly, kiddo. Why would I do that?" "Because you don't like me," she stated bluntly, her voice devoid of accusation, simply a fact. "You never wanted me." My breath hitched in my throat, the truth raw and unfiltered, hanging heavy in the air. Michael's face flushed crimson, his eyes darting around the room like a cornered animal. "That's not true," he blustered, his voice laced with desperation. "You're just a stupid kid making stuff up." "Don't call me stupid," Emily retorted, her small frame bristling with defiance. Martha, ever the peacemaker, intervened. "Michael, that's enough," she snapped, her voice surprisingly firm. "Let Emily speak." Michael opened his mouth to protest, but a withering look from his father silenced him. "Emily, darling," George said, his voice gentle, "can you tell us what happened?" Emily, emboldened by her grandfather's support, reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone, the very phone I'd given her as a secret gift. "I have proof," she declared, her voice ringing with newfound confidence. With a few taps on the screen, a voice filled the room. A woman's voice, sweet and seductive, cooing into the phone. It was a conversation Emily had cleverly recorded. "Don't worry, honey," the voice purred. "Soon we'll be together. Just get rid of her. Permanently." The blood drained from my face. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the chilling silence that followed. What is this?" I stammered, my voice barely a whisper. My father-in-law turned to Michael, his face etched with a mixture of disappointment and fury. "What does this mean, son?" Michael, cornered and defeated, crumpled to his knees, tears streaming down his face. The carefully constructed facade crumbled, revealing the truth in all its ugliness. He confessed everything, a sordid tale of a desperate affair and ruthless ambition with his mistress. He revealed was pregnant with his son, and hair the one he'd always craved. But she wouldn't marry him, not while he had a wife and a child who would eat into his finances with alimony payments. They'd hatched a plan, a monstrous plan to remove the obstacle standing in their way. Emily Fury, a primal and unforgiving beast, roared through me. The man I'd shared my life with, the man who'd held my hand at the altar, was a monster in disguise. My voice, when I finally found it, was a low growl. "Police," I spat, grabbing my phone. Now Michael lunged for me, his voice thick with desperation. "Paloma, please, you don't understand." The sirens wailed in the distance, a mournful symphony heralding justice. However delayed as the officers swarmed into the house, Michael crumpled to the floor, his pleas for mercy falling on deaf ears. The following weeks were a blur of police interviews, lawyers, and court appearances. Emily, bless her brave heart, held her ground. She recounted the events in the mountains, her voice steady and unwavering as she exposed her father's cruelty. The recording on her phone, a testament to his monstrous plan, became the centerpiece of the prosecution's case. The trial was a media frenzy. Michael and his mistress, a viper with painted nails and a heart as cold as ice, pointed fingers at each other, each desperate to shift the blame. Their lies, however, were as flimsy as tissue paper against the weight of evidence. Justice, though slow, did prevail. Michael and his mistress were found guilty of attempted murder. The judge, a stern woman with steely eyes, slammed them with a hefty sentence. They would spend years behind bars, a small price to pay for the monstrous act they'd planned. As for financial compensation, it was a hollow victory. Money couldn't erase the scars etched upon my soul, the fear that had choked me in the agonizing hours of Emily's disappearance. Yet it served as a symbolic punishment, a reminder of the life they'd so heartlessly tried to extinguish. Perhaps the most satisfying blow came from Michael's own family. Martha and George, their faces etched with profound disappointment, publicly disowned their son. They stood by me and Emily, their unwavering support a balm to our wounded hearts. Emily and I moved away, leaving behind the ghosts of the past. It wasn't easy. There were nightmares that clawed up my sleep. But with each sunrise, with each shared laugh with Emily, the shadows receded. And as I held Emily close, the warmth of her small body a beacon of hope, I knew one thing for certain: a mother's love, fierce and unwavering, could conquer even the most monstrous betrayals.